Present tense Spanish verbs ending in R with FrenchSpanishOnline.com. The present tense in Spanish is not very difficult because it translates the English present tense, but also the present continuous and the future tense, even if these tenses exist in Spanish. So for example, if we want to translate hablo coming from the verb hablar, to speak or to talk, so hablo means I speak. It's the present tense. But also I'm speaking, the present continuous, or I will speak. And it depends on the context. So we will have a look in another lesson about the difference. Let's start with the regular verbs for the present tense in Spanish, verb in R, like hablar, to speak, to talk, and also here a new verb for you, llamar, to call. So let's see the conjugation and how to translate the present tense. I speak, you speak, he, she, it speaks, we speak, you speak, and they speak. The ending of the verb at the present tense will be o, as, a, amos, ais, an. And with the stem of the verb, for example, hablar, the stem is the first letters without the end are, so we'll have yo hablo, tú hablas, él habla, ella habla, nosotros hablamos, nosotras hablamos, vosotros habláis, vosotras habláis, ellos hablan, ellas hablan. We put into brackets the subjects here because actually in Spanish, when it's clear that you are talking about someone, we don't use subject. So for example, if you want to translate I speak, you just say hablo. You can say yo hablo if you want to stress the point that you are talking, yo hablo, but it's not necessary. Another example, to translate she speaks, you can say habla if it's clear for anybody in the conversation that you are talking about a girl. It's not very clear. In this case, you will say ella habla. As you can see here, we have two forms for the conjugation, an informal one and a formal. The formal is for people you don't know, or to speak with elder ones, or to speak with your boss and a thing like that. For example, to translate you speak, if you know the person, you will say hablas. If you don't know, or if you want to show your respect, you will say usted habla. This form with usted is very used in Latin America. The tendency in Spain is to use tú with anybody, even if you don't know the person. The same thing for the plural, you speak. This form is in Spain, vosotros habláis. In Latin America, we prefer to use ustedes hablan. There is another form actually in Latin America, but not in all countries. The form is to use vos, V-O-S, instead of tú, vos hablas, to translate you speak. So this is another form, and you can see this form in Central America, for example, in some country in South America too. Let's see now the irregular verbs of this category, the verb in R. First, the diphthong verbs, very complicated word for something easy to understand. For example, the verb empezar. Empezar means to start or to begin, but the stem of empezar becomes empiez with a I. So we say this is the diphthong verb because from one vowel, E, we have now two, I-E. The vowel E becomes IE, so that's why we call it a diphthong. But not for all the subjects, as you can see. If you want to translate now I start, you start, etc., you will say empiezo, empiezas, empieza, but here empezamos, empezáis. There is no irregular forms. Empiezan for the last one. The same thing for other verbs. For example, jugar, to play, becomes jueg for the stem. And we have to say it, I play, you play, etc. Juego, juegas, juega, jugamos, jugáis. Again, these two plural forms are not irregular. And the last one is juegan. Finally, another verb, encontrar, to translate to meet or to find. Here the letter O becomes UE, and we have encuentro, encuentras, encuentra, encontramos, encontráis, encuentran. So actually you need to know these verbs by heart. You can't guess when they are diphthong verbs or not. So here we have 3 of them, so learn them, but you will meet more in your lessons. Another type of irregular verbs when they have an additional accent. For example, here the verb enviar, to send. As you can see here, the stem gets a little accent on the letter I. This accent is to stress the pronunciation of this letter. So you will say envío, envías, envía, but now enviamos, enviáis, y again envían. So as you can hear, actually, here there is a separation when you pronounce them between the letter I and the letter O. But here there is no difference. It's like one letter, the letter ya, enviamos. Actually, when you hear people speaking in Spain or in Latin America, it's not as obvious that there is a difference. But you need to learn them because it's the correct form. Another verb, continuar, to continue. Here the stress is on the letter U. So we have continuo, continúas, continúa, continuamos, continuáis, continúan. Okay? So again, you need to learn these verbs as you can't guess if there is an accent, a stress or not. Finally, the last irregular verb we are interested in is the verb estar, one of the verbs to be. Estar is one of the verbs to be in Spanish, because actually we have 2 verbs to translate to be, and we are going to see the second one in the second lesson. Here the conjugation of this verb is irregular and important, because you know that to be is a very important verb. So we say estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis, están. We can say that we use this verb, estar, with things that not last. For example, when you say estoy enfermo, I'm ill. So we hope, of course, that it can change. So, because it's going to change, you are not going to be all the time ill. In this case, we use the verb estar. It's a kind of rule. Of course, there are some exceptions, but you can remember this rule and the difference between this verb to be estar and the other one. And I think it's enough for this lesson. Terminado. So if you want now to read the script of this lesson, you can go to FrenchSpanishOnline.com magazine in the Spanish part of the website. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much for watching these slides with me. See you next lesson. Ciao, ciao.